on legal principles and at times for parties that are holding different policy views. And I would continue to have the same tradition of impartiality for the rule of law if I had the honor of being confirmed.
Senator Schmitt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I would actually follow up on Senator Whitehouse's argument. Actually, the little guy gets a better shot now. Look at the Loper Bright case. These were fishermen that through the administrative state were being then forced to pay for the own inspectors on the boats. And the leviathan of government that was aimed against them, including their pleas for help, were ignored. So I actually appreciate your position on as relates to the administrative state more broadly, but also your positions, I think, as the importance of separation of powers. And you're a national expert on that, and I'm very excited about your nomination, so congratulations.
Thank you, Senator.
Last year, of course, the Supreme Court overturned the Chevron deference doctrine, and you were gracious enough to participate in our post-Chevron working group, and I have the report here, which provides and outlines, I think, a way forward now that deference is no longer with us, thankfully. In your view, what is the importance of that Loper Bright decision?
Senator, I think it was quite a significant way in which the Supreme Court looked in that case at the text of the Administrative Procedure Act, which, as this body knows, governs procedural practices across administrative agencies, and simply underscored and reaffirmed the idea that when statutory text is before a court, the court's supposed to look at the text as it was enacted by this body and signed by the president and not give a thumb on the scale in favor of the administrative agency's interpretation of the statute because during the administrative agency's own regulatory proceedings, but take a full and fair look at what the law's text means.
So does any deference remain in interpreting statutory text?
Not on questions of law after the Loper Bright decision. And
you will faithfully apply that decision as a Third Circuit judge?
Yes, of course.
A couple other questions I want to get to quickly. At Catholic University's Columbus School of Law, you ran a Separation of Powers Institute. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator.
Why do you think the separation of powers is so important? Why do you think, Justice Scalia once pointed out that a lot of dictatorial, even communist regimes have a parchment of paper extolling the importance of individual rights, but it's the separation of powers that ultimately allows that to be meaningful in this country. Why do you think it's so important?
Yes, Senator, it's core to our constitutional structure because I think the framers understood that decision-making needs to be divided up among multiple people to keep those of us who want to serve and have power accountable ourselves. And so at the federal level, there's 3 different branches, as this body knows, but there's also the separation of powers vertically between the federal government and the states, and the policymakers are all accountable through elections back to the people, and it's core to our freedoms and our liberty and our prosperity.
And through that vertical and horizontal protection, it's meant to ultimately protect individual liberty, right?
Correct.
All of it
Yes.
is dispersed
Yes,
power
Senator.
and yes.
Yes, absolutely.
I just, a couple final questions on a vertical stare decisis. In recent months, the Chief Justice, Justice Kavanaugh, and Justice Gorsuch have all emphasized the need for lower court judges to give some level of precedential weight to Supreme Court emergency docket decisions. And interestingly, many Democrat-appointed judges are refusing to do that. I heard a lot during the initial confirmation process from my Democrat colleagues about how they were so concerned that President Trump wasn't going to obey court orders. Well, it turns out district court judges appointed by Democrats with overtly partisan leanings are refusing to obey orders from the Supreme Court on questions that are 4 corners. There's no distinguishing. They just don't want to do it because they don't like President Trump. As a Third Circuit judge, will you respect Supreme Court precedent and emergency docket decisions?
Senator, yes, I will respect all Supreme Court precedent.
And do you have any issues with overturning a lower court judge who, on your read, did not follow Supreme Court precedent?
Well, Senator, I hesitate to say anything at all that would suggest I'm giving an opinion on a particular case, but as a general matter, I would consider myself on the appeals court to be responsible for following Supreme Court precedent myself, and if I saw it not followed in a decision that was under my review, to reach a holding that is consistent with the Supreme Court precedent and reverse the lower court.
So if a lower court judge were ignoring the Supreme Court, like my friends on the other side have wanted to juice up the public that President Trump would do, which he's never done, you would have the courage in that moment to say to that lower court judge, you need to follow actually the Supreme Court precedent and ruling here.
If I thought a lower court decision was incorrect with that Supreme Court precedent, yes, I absolutely would reverse it and make it be, if I had jurisdiction, and make it be consistent with the Supreme Court precedent, yes.
Thank you, congratulations. I think you're going to be great on the bench. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you.